The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Whether she's walking the red carpet or doing interviews, you'll find her with celebrities and all the latest news. She's here, she's there, she's everywhere, she's always on the go. So sit back, relax, and get ready. This is the Corey Taylor Talks Show.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Corey Taylor Talks, live from Las Vegas, the #1 teen talk show. If every now and then I have to take a break or for a second, I have a little bit of a cold I'm getting over, so I might I know my producer's giving me the cross. But I might have a little bit of a foggy throat, so I apologize in advance. But we are so excited. We're recording this show a few hours early, actually, because tomorrow I am heading to LA for the Academy Awards, and I'm super excited. And today our guest is Michael Sean Erickson, and he's great. He's an actor, producer, writer, everything, and he's so cool, and I'm so excited to have him on. So why don't we do that? Michael, hi, how are you?
Hi, Corey. It's a pleasure to meet you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can. Thank you. We're excited to have you on. So for some of the people that do not know you, why don't you introduce yourself and tell a little bit about exactly what you do and some of the films you've been working on?
Well, yes. Again, my name is Michael Sean Erickson, and I've been a novelist for some years. I write horror novels. I also do science fiction, and so I've been a writer, an actor, a stage actor for over 20 years. And recently, about 2.5 years ago, I moved to LA and started working in the film business. So I've been doing character roles in different movies here in Los Angeles, and I've been writing scripts for different film production companies, and just being very active as a producer and a writer and an actor, and very much interested in the horror field. I've got a film that's coming out named Darkest Night that I wrote, and looking forward to shooting that film later this year.
Well, that is exciting, and I'm a big horror fan, and I've been in a bunch of different horror films, so this is right up my alley. Now, what is The Darkest Night going to be about?
Well, Darkest Night is about a family that's living really in a remote area, but more importantly, it's living on the edge of sanity. It's basically a family that's convinced that the end times are about to happen, and that the beast is coming for them, and them alone, because they really believe, especially the father, Abram, that they've been ordained by God to be the only survivors of this cataclysmic end times. And so they're sort of preparing for this, but they're ostracized by the local community, which regards them as essentially a bunch of fruitcakes and doesn't want them around. And so essentially you've got this sort of paranoia within the family, in the relationships between the father and the son, and a younger daughter, and also a paranoia, a very real conflict between themselves and the small town, which believes that they may have committed a terrible crime in the past, and it's to them for that purpose. So that's really the essence of it. It's, Darkest Night, as you probably know, is a reference to the apocalypse. It's from a verse in the book of Revelation.
Right, well, I was almost going to say, excuse me, it kind of almost reminds me of a modern day horror twist on Noah's Ark, kind of.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to think about it. You have the remnant, which is preserved. In the case of Noah's Ark, of course, they're preserved because of their fidelity to God's word, and therefore they're saved from the great flood. In this case, in the case of Darkest Night, the family believes that they're faithful to God's word, but the real question is that true? Or are they just faithful to themselves and ultimately to their own sort of mental and moral sickness? And if that's the case, then they're not going to be saved at all. You know, it's really a question of, faithfulness. What are you really faithful to? And what are you really doing? Are you really doing God's work, or are you really doing the devil's work? And that's the real question.
That's interesting. I really like that concept. That's very different, and that sounds very unique. That's a really cool sounding thing.
Well, thank you. It's it does have obviously religious undertones to it, but it's not a quote unquote religious story. It's a horror story, and I think it's something that people can appreciate whether they're well versed in the Bible or not. It's fundamentally a human story. And it really comes down to man's capacity for delusion, right? Whether or not he really understands the road that he's on and the decisions that he's made. Are they his own decisions, or is he fated by the gods or by history or nature or what have you to act the way that he acts? So it's really a question about free will versus fate and God's commandment, and all those issues are sort of play themselves out in this cataclysmic family dynamic.
No, I really, really like that. And is it? I believe I read it was a book as well, right?
Well, yes. Interestingly enough, because I am a novelist, but in this particular case, I started out by writing the screenplay first.
Ah.
And it was only after I finished the screenplay I decided to write a novelization of the screenplay. So in this case, the screenplay came first and the novel came second. And it's interesting, some differences, obviously, between the book and the screenplay. As you can imagine, with a novel, you have more of an opportunity to expand on the characters and to introduce backstory and other elements that you wouldn't have time to do in a 90-minute film. So there are some differences, but fundamentally the story is the same. And so I enjoy that. As a fan of horror myself, I always enjoy seeing the difference between a book and a movie, and seeing where sometimes the conflict is great, such as the difference between Stephen King's The Shining and Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which are almost two entirely different stories in many ways. Sometimes the differences are subtle, and as a fan, I just enjoy being able to read both the novel and see the film, and I hope that fans can do the same with Darkest Night.
No, and I always think that's a very interesting thing, and I think it's being done more and more, and I think that's a great thing that's being done more, is when you do actually write the screenplay first, and then you add on to the book with it, and that gives, if you're really interested in the movie, that gives the fans more of an opportunity to go deeper into it and stuff. So that's a really cool idea that I hope is going on more and more, because it really is awesome.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, what really matters is the story. And I always say, I love film. I love horror films. I love to be scared, just like anybody else who watches horror films. But at the end of the day, what really matters and what really impacts us as fans is not the kill shots or the boo shots, or the special effects or what have you, and all of those are perfectly fine and good, and especially when they're done well. But what really matters is the story, the characters. Are they believable? Do we care about them? Do we care about what they're going through? Do we have empathy for them? Yeah. And if we do, then the horror is going to reach us in a very deep level. And if we don't, then we're going to forget about it the moment we turn off the film or put down the book.
Right.
And so I really think that any way that we as fans can really delve more into the characters and more into their backstory and really sort of grapple with who these people are, I think the better and more rich of an experience the story can be for us.
No, absolutely. And who are the actors going to be for it?
Well, we have two pretty well-known horror actors, Robert Lasardo and Bill Oberst Jr. Those are two gentlemen which have been in a number of horror films and are pretty well-known in that genre. And we're still, we haven't finished casting yet, so we're still looking at some actors for some of the other roles. I'm gonna play one of the characters myself. I like I said, I've been an actor for over 20 years, mostly a stage actor, and so I look forward to playing one of the police officers in the film. And but yeah, no, it's exciting. It's exciting putting it together and developing the cast as we speak.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I actually just recently wrapped with Bill, and Bill is an incredible man, and he's so unbelievably talented, and he's such a sweet guy, and so that's really cool. He's a great, great guy.
Oh, I agree with you, and it's so amazing because I've been a fan of his for years.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those guys that likes to go onto Netflix, like 2 in the morning when I can't sleep, right, and I'll stream a movie, usually a horror film, and very often it's a film that he's been in,
Yeah.
And so I've been a fan of his, and frankly, until I put together Darkest Night recently, I really didn't anticipate ever working with him. I just knew him as somebody I was a fan. I'm a fan of his, and I just knew him in that regard. I never anticipated I would actually get to work on a film with him. And so that's just really exciting. You never know,
Oh, no.
You never know what may happen.
Yeah, and I mean, he is just, he's been in so many things, and he just wrapped Screen Queens and stuff, and he was in there, and like Jamie Lee Curtis tweeted about him, so like, he's really getting very well known, so that is cool. He's part of your production, and he is such the most down-to-earth, sweetest guy I've ever met.
Well, that's wonderful, and he's also, very classically trained actor. I mean, he's a very good actor, and so is everyone, frankly, that we have been able to bring into the cast thus far. I really admire them as actors. We really want to have a very strong ensemble because at the end of the day, Darkest Night is about the lives of the characters and how they interplay with one another. It's about the chemistry between father and son, and father and daughter, and sort of this perverse dynamic which takes place within the family. And in order to pull this off, we really need strong actors. We need actors who really know how to bring a character to life. It's not like a slasher film, for example, and don't get me wrong, I love slasher films,
Right.
but especially from the 80s, and I'm a big fan. But let's face it, they were never about the acting. Nobody really watched Friday the 13th for the most part, thinking, "Wow, what a performance!"
Right.
But in the case of Darkest Night, it really has to be a compelling performance because otherwise it just doesn't work because it's so character driven. In many ways, even though this falls under the horror genre, it's really a drama. It's a compelling drama, human drama, and for the horror to really work, it has to first and foremost be compelling and real. And I think it will be because of the actors we're compiling, and I look forward to seeing it happen.
No, and I gotta say, that's a very interesting script, and I'm very excited for it because it seems very cool. And like I said, Bill's amazing, and your cast so far sounds great. So that's really, really cool.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate hearing that because we're really pushing the envelope with Darkest Night because again, without trying to give away too much of the plot, but there are certain themes in Darkest Night that are very, shall we say, very troubling, very very hard, very dark, and it's not the typical type of horror film that I think most mainstream audiences have seen, and so it's something that, again, it pushes the envelope in terms of how the characters interact with one another, in terms of how the paranoia plays itself out. And all I can say is, again, without giving away the plot, which is a little hard to do, but from different people that I've shared the script with, as well as the novel, they've all said, boy, they love the story, but boy, is it dark. Boy, is it intense. And I always tell people, by the way, as a side note, because it all ultimately came out of my imagination, and I always tell people, look, just because I write this stuff, don't think that this reflects who I am.
Right.
I'm, just because I can write about a serial killer doesn't mean I am one. And so that's sort of the, that's an interesting part of it, because a lot of times I'll tell you, and I've noticed this as an actor in the past, sometimes people in the audience or readers or what have you, they can't separate the performance from the person or the performance from the writer, and they sometimes think that must reflect who you are, and the truth is, it doesn't. Like you talk about Bill Oberst. I mean, he's a wonderful man.
Oh, yeah.
Kind-hearted man.
Yeah, and he plays the creepy
really
guy all the time.
Right, exactly. And people need to understand that's not who he is.
Right.
And so I hope when people read Darkest Night, or if they watch the film, I hope they realize that I'm not a dark maniac.
No, I'm sure they won't. And I think more and more people are starting to get the fact that people are different from their characters. I think especially now with social media and stuff, and they're actually able to connect with their actors and stuff. So I think they are getting better with separating, but unfortunately I do completely understand, sometimes people are ooh, even I played a horrible mass murderer, psycho, creepy person, and and some people were oh, you're her, but I think people are getting better with that for sure.
Yeah, no, it's always good when people can understand the difference between reality and fantasy. I recall once I was in a play called Incorruptible, which is a farce, and I played the monk. It's set in a medieval monastery, and I play sort of the large, rotund, benevolent, but not too bright monk. Okay, in this very funny play, and afterwards, I had people come up to me on the street, people who had seen the play and seen my performance, and I remember they came up to me and they were so grateful and they were so happy, and I'm wondering, well, why are they so overjoyed to see me? And finally, one of them said, well, we're so happy to see that you're not, in real life mentally challenged.
Oh.
and I said, okay, that's a very interesting compliment, right?
Right.
And he said, oh no, we thought that that they actually hired a mentally challenged person to play your role.
Mm.
And I thought, well, I guess my performance was pretty good then.
No, for sure.
I guess in a way it was really good, but again, people assume, not all the time, but sometimes anyway, they just assume that if you're a certain way on the stage, well, that must be who you are. And so no, I had to tell them, no, that was just a performance. I'm not really that way. I'm not like the 13th century monk that you saw on the stage. But yeah, that happens. So it's interesting to see. Interesting always to see how people react to things.
Oh yeah, and is Sean Gerardo going to be part of it as well?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, he plays Zachary. He's a very important character. He is the son of Abram, and he's the one. His character is the one who's really trying to hold it together, because while he, to some extent, believes in the same ideas that are causing his father to fall off the deep end, he doesn't go as far as his father in terms of the paranoia. And so he's trying to hold together the family and keep the family in some semblance of sanity, while his father is more and more unraveling. And so it's it's a very difficult role. It's a very compelling role. I'm confident he can do it. I know he's a very good actor, and I know he can play the role of Zachary very well. But yeah, he will be a very important, critical character to everything that takes place.
Yeah, Sean's a great guy, and he's one that set up this whole interview and stuff, and I just worked with him as well, so yeah, very cool. I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he's a good actor. He's a good man, and you know, in fact, this whole project started really. It was the two of us. We were getting together over a year ago now, and having a drink together and talking, and we're both horror fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're sitting there and we're saying, you know, wouldn't it be nice to make a horror film that's also a really good, compelling drama with serious character development and captivating performances, and something more than just run-of-the-mill, you know, kill shots and you know, mass stalkers or something.
Right.
And not that I don't like those movies, by the way, because I love those movies too. But no, we just want to see, can we do something like that? And so that sort of became the impetus for Darkest Night.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Now, I know you said you were a novelist, and you still are. So what are some of the other books that you've done?
Well, I've done several novels. All of them are up on Amazon. For anyone who's interested, just type in Michael Sean Sean Erickson Erickson, and you'll find my Amazon page. I've done novels. Dreamtime is an anthology, actually, of different short stories and novellas, and in many ways similar to the type of stories you might find in a Twilight Zone anthology. Not, you know, perhaps a little darker than the Twilight Zone, but more or less in that vein. We've got a novel called We Shall Not Be Moved, about the different generation of women who are fighting this sort of demonic entity that has been plaguing the same family over many generations. We have a post-apocalyptic dystopian novel called Heat Wave, which is actually going to be the first in a franchise of stories starring this particular character that I've created named Max Gunn. And then we also have a story called Take Off Your Clothes, which pretty provocative title. And that one is pretty horrifying. In fact, I just reread that novel recently. You know, sometimes when you write a novel and you put it aside and you don't look at it for a while and you reread it, it's almost like you're reading somebody else's work. It's pretty funny how that happens. And Take Off Your Clothes is about a man named Walter Whipple, who is, let's say he's had some terrible traumatic experiences in his past that caused him to live a very strange life, where he deliberately sets himself apart from the rest of civilization, the rest of society, through his quirky and very antisocial behavior, and he decides that there's this other character named Billy Ray he believes has essentially insulted him by discontinuing a certain act that he had been doing that he decided not to do anymore, and Walter Whipple believes that he sort of takes it personally and decides to kidnap him and basically to force him to continue doing what he had been doing before. And in many ways, it's somewhat like Misery, the Stephen King novel. There are some parallels with that, although it's not entirely that story either. But Take Off Your Clothes it's a long novel. It's about 800 pages or so.
Wow.
But it's pretty compelling. I mean, again, I just reread it recently, and I scared myself, you know, and I wrote the darn thing.
Right.
So that's another one people might want to check out.
No, that's funny. That sounds awesome. And what advice do you have for people that might want to start getting into writing or screenplay or acting and stuff? What advice do you have for them?
Well, I really believe that there's nothing better than actually doing it. I know that sounds simplistic, but it's true.
Yeah.
For example, if you want to be a writer, in my opinion, you should be writing at least 3 to 4 hours every day, at least 6 days a week. If you're not doing that, you're never going to develop into a good writer. It's just as simple as that. You have to write. Force yourself to write. Come up with a story in your mind. Maybe write down a little outline of the story that you want to tell, if you need to do that. And then start writing it. And literally sit there, 3 hours, maybe 4 hours a day, writing, trying to put it together. Share your work with other people, with people who have, who have good opinions and have your best interests at heart, and keep working at it. And if you have talent, you'll improve. You'll become better. But you have to write. And the other thing you have to do if you want to be a writer is you have to read. Reading is the exercise for writers, right? Just like, if you want to be an athlete, you need to work out in the gym every day. Well, if you want to be a writer, you have to be a reader, as far as I'm concerned. You're not a serious writer unless you have read the classics and have spent hours and hours and years reading wonderful literature. And there's no excuse for not doing that if you want to be a writer. For acting, I'll tell you right now, the best thing to do for acting, one of the things that I recommend for actors, even though it's a very different discipline in some ways, but I would recommend doing improvisation. Like doing an improv course, because it gets you out of your skin. It gets you out of your own head. You learn how to be free in the moment and not overthink something. Because as you know, the essence of improv is you can't be thinking about what you're going to do next. You have to just instantly react to the situation.
Right.
And it forces you out of your head, out of your skin, to be alive in the moment. And a lot of times, even though acting's not the same as improv, but if you can bring in some of those elements of improv, your performance will be fresher and more compelling, because it's you're willing to take risks. And so I would recommend that for any actor who wants to make his performance frankly more interesting for the audience.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. And so where can people find everything? Where can they find you, follow you, all your stuff? And when's the movie coming out as well?
Well, absolutely. It's so funny, by the way, the social media terms we use. Now we want people to follow us, And
Right.
in the old days, that was called stalking. But anyway, no. In terms of my online presence, right now, the best way to get to know about me is, as I mentioned before, to go to Amazon and go to Michael Sean Erickson. Like I said, SEAN and then ERICKSON, Michael Sean Erickson, and check out my Amazon page. You'll find all my books there. And if you want to get to know about me, the best way to do it is to read one of my books. You can start off by reading Darkest Night, the book we've been talking about.
Yes.
Novels, and you'll get to learn pretty quickly how demented and dark my imagination can get. And in terms of the movie, we're going to be shooting it later this year. We're still putting together the production plan, but we're definitely going to be doing it sometime this year with a plan for release, most likely early next year at this point.
Okay.
So definitely look for it, early next year. But we're going to be doing a marketing campaign. We're going to be doing as many interviews and blog entries as we can, and so look for Darkest Night online on some of the horror blog sites, because we'll be making an effort to get ourselves known through that medium as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, yeah, everyone, please go check it out. It's all his stuff sounds incredible. I'm so excited for it. And thank you so much, Michael, for being on. You're awesome.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. Darkest Night is, again, the name of the book and the soon-to-be film. It's going to scare you, and it's going to trouble you, and that's, of course, what you should want to read and see late at night when you're dealing with the ghosts and goblins in your head, right?
Right.
So check out Darkest Night, especially when it's dark out.
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Michael, and have a great day.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and that was Michael Sean Erickson. He sounds like a great guy, and his stuff sounds amazing. So I'm super excited for all of it. Please go check it all out. And as I said before, we are recording a little early, so this is not live right now, because we're heading to the Oscars tomorrow, and I'm so excited for it. I'm going to be posting a whole bunch of my producers giving me the thumbs up. We're going to be posting a whole bunch of pictures and everything, so please go follow me on Real Corey Taylor on Instagram and Twitter, and also follow facebook.com/Corey Taylor Talks. You can go to CoreyTaylorTalks.com and RealCoreyTaylor.com and check out everything. Please give us love, support everything. Check out our YouTube channel, of course, WWDBTV, where we will be posting the video hopefully in a few weeks after the event. And I'm really, really excited, and it's going to be fun. I don't know who's going to be there, so I can't promise anything, but I think it's going to be really, really big and awesome. So I'm excited for it. And it's going to be fun, and I'm excited to go back to LA. I'm going to the Hollywood Museum of Death. I know, I'm so excited. I wanted to go for years, and now I'm finally able to go. And because I never had time to fit it in, and this time I'm like, we are going to this. So I'm so excited. Again, follow everything for updates and photos and the video coming out soon. And of course, I'll be posting that everywhere when that comes out, and it will be on the show, of course. So yeah, I'm super excited. And thank you guys for always being so supportive. Again, please go check out Michael Sean Erickson and check out all his stuff and give all his stuff likes and follows. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. I will see you next week. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, never give up, always believe, and you will achieve. Thank you, and God bless.